When we're getting to know Jesus, it's not like we're on our own at all, in fact. It's not like we're stuck here in the 21st century trying to connect with a figure from 2,000 years ago in history. John knew that most of his readers would never have clapped eyes on Jesus. Not a problem, he thought. And, this is someone who was up close and personal daily, hourly, for years with Jesus. He still had complete confidence that people like us, who never once bumped into Jesus, never sat across the table from him and passed him the salt, could stand in exactly the same relationship with him as John himself had done. He wrote in a letter once, "We proclaim to you what we have seen and heard, so that you also may have fellowship with us. And our fellowship is with the Father and with his Son, Jesus Christ." Now, where did he get that complete confidence that we, who've never encountered Jesus with any of our physical senses, can have the same relationship with him as Peter and James and John and the other disciples did? How can you meet someone who you can't possibly meet? How can you be introduced to someone who can't be presented to you? John wasn't, I think, we can safely say, placing his faith in tremendous paintings by the old masters. He'd never seen them. Or the films that have been made recently, of course, he'd never seen those. Nor was he expecting that we would have an introduction to Jesus that involved none of our physical senses, just some kind of mystical awakening. In one sense, I think he fully expected our introductions to Jesus to be as physical as any introduction to anyone else. He wrote this at the start of his Gospel, chapter 1, verses 12 and 13. "To all who received him," that is Jesus, "to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Children, born not of natural descent, nor of human decision, or a husband's will, but born of God." Such people are still, and this would be absolutely no surprise whatsoever to John, such people are still to be found 2,000 years later, everywhere. People who have received Jesus, people who have believed in him. And wherever you find one, and I'm kind of guessing that if you are watching this, you have already found one, you encounter with your own eyes and ears and other senses someone who is not any longer a product of the system. Someone of whom you could say, well, God had the making of them. Now, do get what I am saying. Is knowing a Christian the same as knowing Jesus? Absolutely not. It really isn't. It is, however, by way of an introduction. I would not claim to know someone to whom I had just been introduced. But the introduction is important for me because it's the start of any relationship. If you're watching this, you may not know Jesus yet. You may be painfully conscious that he is out of reach, beyond your physical senses. But you probably do know someone who knows him. And they aren't out of reach at all. If you have been, thank you for listening.